I just want to say thank you all so much for coming. It's really beautiful to look out and just see all the love and support. And I know everybody's hurting in a different way, but thank you all for coming and showing support for Dave. He deserved it. I'm not going to share today on what a great dad, friend, or police officer David was. He was the absolute best, and you will hear more about that later. I want to share with all of you our love story. It is definitely God's story. It has marriage, unconditional love, hurt, sin, honesty, forgiveness, anger, loyalty, brokenness, and happiness. Some of you knew us as high school sweethearts and newlyweds. Some of you knew us during the middle of our marriage when I worked as a dispatcher, and some of you knew us the last couple of years. Wherever your journey began with us, you may have seen a different Nick and Dave. We met in high school in April 1998, a shy 17-year-old boy and an outgoing 15-year-old girl. We went on our first date in May, and we continued to date and became really good friends over that summer. We dated on and off the remainder of my high school years. He told me several times the last few years that he fell in love with me at 17 and he would love me until the day he died. We married in November 2002, and I moved out of my parents' home to live with him. I was 19 and he was 22, and we had no clue what marriage was really about. He grew up Baptist and I grew up Catholic. We were both believers, but we had different views of what marriage should look like. Dave knew that marriage was forever, no matter what. I, on the other hand, had an unrealistic fairy tale idea of what marriage should be. When we would fight, I would second guess if we made the right decision. Though we were going to a Baptist church, we were considered those Sunday church people. Emily was born a year and a half into our marriage, and Grace came 16 months later. Our little family was complete. During the middle of our marriage, we were going to a different Baptist church. We had a Sunday school class, but we did not grow in our marriage or form a deeper relationship with God. Dave worked evening shift, and I worked deep nights. We thought this was a good idea because the one of us always was with our kids. As we looked back several years later, this was a terrible idea for our marriage. We quickly became roommates that were raising children. We hardly saw each other because of our opposite shifts, and we slept at different times. Dave also worked part-times, and we didn't make time for each other. Our kids were our number one priority, and then our jobs, which sounds great, but as we would later find out, the priorities in a marriage should always be God first, spouse second, children, then work. Our marriage was falling apart. There was hurt, bitterness, and anger, and instead of talking about it, we just kept going on with life. A few years into this, I told Dave I wanted a divorce. I was completely honest with where I was at in our marriage and my reasons why I wanted out. Dave fought for me and refused to let me leave him. We were invited to go to Watermark, and I saw in the newsletter they had a marriage ministry called Reengage. During this time, Dave rated our marriage a 7, and I put us at a 3. Although we learned tools to better equip our marriage over the next few years, we continued to struggle, and God would not remain the top priority. 2 years ago this month, I told Dave I wanted a divorce. I was tired of living in a complacent marriage where work was still a priority. Dave told me to give him and our marriage one more chance, and he would prove to me that he could be the husband I needed him to be. And at the time of his death, 2 years later, he had not let me down one time. He started journaling and reading the Bible every day. He would also set reminders on his phone to tell me sweet things or to grab me a little surprise from the store. A few months later, he told me he felt God wanted me to leave my job where I was working mandatory 52-hour work weeks and either stay home or work part-time so we could have more time together. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared to walk away from a career I loved and to walk away from the set income. I chose to leave, and we put our faith in God that he would take care of us. Over the next several months, our marriage radically changed. Dave memorized and clung to 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Prophecy and speaking in unknown languages and special knowledge will become useless, but love will last forever. This would soon become our marriage verse. We got into a great community group at church. We were able to be brutally honest with them about our marriage struggles, and together we started building a marriage with God being the first priority and us being second. We read the Bible together, we went on date nights every week, and we got to go to bed together every night. Dave's faith grew so strong with God, and he loved me like Christ loved the church. He was truly a man of God. If you knew Dave, you knew he always loved our family. He always wanted to be home with us, and he would get excited over our family vacations and watching our kids play sports. He would use our story and share it with others. He told them to never make this job a priority over their wife and family. He told people to make sure they date and spoil their wives, even when they are tired. He wrote in his journal, "I have to put God and Nick at the top of everything else. It is not enough to just feel it. Nick needs to feel how much I love her. She is all I want and need, and I have to make her feel that she deserves to be happy. Make her happiness a priority over everything else." Dave loved me with everything he had, and he did everything he could to make me happy. Many people have mentioned to me how Dave modeled how to be a better cop, husband, and father. Dave was a man with integrity, and he was a living example of what we should all strive to be. Our marriage was completely broken, and God fixed it. I did not believe after 12 years of marriage and all the hurt that we had gone through that it was possible. But if you knew us in the last 2 years, you saw that fairy tale marriage. Dave always loved me unconditionally, even during times I was unlovable. He never quit on me. He always said mushy stuff, and he would make a complete fool out of himself for me, even though he knew he was going to get teased about it from his buddies. And he treated me like a queen. Last Sunday, we had a conversation about our marriage. We had separately completed a church survey and were asked to rate our marriage. Dave asked me what I rated it at, and we just had a fun little banter. So I said, "What did you rate it at?" He replied, "I put a 9. And then I started thinking and changed it to a 10 plus because we have grown so much closer in the last year with each other and with God. And then he asked again what I put, and I replied, "Well, what do you think I put?" And he replied, "Am I going to look stupid, and did you put a 3 again?" I smiled and replied, "I put a 10 plus." And he smiled so big and was so happy. We had finally hit the perfect marriage, and we were each other's best friend. Dave set the bar very high as a husband. He was an amazing example of what a husband should be to his wife, and I'm grateful our daughters got to witness just how much he loved me so selflessly. That's a blessing. If you've heard nothing else today, know that it doesn't matter where your marriage is at. It doesn't matter what has happened in your marriage. God can fix it. Nothing is too big for God. You just have to have faith and put in the work. Let our marriage be your example. Learn from us on how short life actually can be. We thought we had forever, and I am beyond blessed and grateful that the last 2 years of our marriage was godly, loving, and the happiest years of our whole marriage. Dave was the perfect example of a godly husband. Ephesians 5:25 says, "For husbands, this means love your wives, just as Christ loved the church. He gave up his life for her." Dave truly loved me selflessly and unconditionally and put all my wants and needs before his. If he was here, he would want every man in this room to have a relationship with Christ. He would want every man in this room to love his wife like Dave loved me. He would say, spoil her, make her more important than yourself, no matter what, pray with her, and pray for her. And I didn't put this in here, but I just want to add, every morning Dave would get up before me, and he would just put his hand on me, and he would pray over me every single morning. And he would also say, date her, and always love her and respect her. He would tell you divorce should never be an option, and don't let those words ever come out of your mouth. All marriages go through hard times, but I am a living example When you invest in your marriage and don't give up, God completely blesses you. I'm going to miss David. I'm so blessed that we made it to our 15-year anniversary in November and that we made the most out of celebrating it. I'm going to miss our love, our laughs, our silly times and banter, our double date nights, cuddling, because Dave loved to cuddle, and talking all throughout the day. Fix your marriage if it is struggling. You never know what tomorrow may bring. Thank you.